just taking out the trash. Oh! Aw, man. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Terraria. This is the second part of my only using weapons and accessories I've never used before challenge. Last time, we cleared out all of pre-hard mode using all of these unusual items. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, then go ahead and do that right now. Don't worry, we'll wait for you to come back. In this episode, we're going to be jumping headfirst into hard mode, and the end goal for today is going to be to stomp out Plantera. Little recap of the rules, no weapons that I've ever used before, and a little less strict on armor and accessories, but ideally I want to use stuff that's not very widely used. Alright, let's begin. So, at the end of last episode, we took down the Wall of Flesh and unlocked hard mode. The Wall of Flesh drops some pretty good weapons and accessories that are sometimes crucial in order to survive the first couple hours of hard mode, but we aren't allowed to use any of them. So, let's just go and do the first logical step of hard mode, which is to break 3 demon altars and see what new ores we get. The good thing about these 6 ores is that there's usually never a reason to craft weapons and armor out of the weaker ones. For me, I've used pretty much nothing from the Cobalt and Mithril arsenal, so I'm hoping that I at least get one of those 2. Oh, come on, man. Well, out of the 3 of these, I've definitely used Orichalcum the least, so even though I'm not entirely innocent to using Orichalcum armor, I'm going to allow it since our selection of usable armor sets at this point is pretty limited, and remember, we're still wearing Ancient Shadow armor at this point. However, there is something that I haven't used from all 3 of these ores, and that's the spears. Does anyone craft these things? In comparison to the swords, they're a bit harder to use, and they even do a bit less damage. Personally, I've never used a Palladium Pike, so that's going to be our first hard mode weapon. After a bit of mining, I craft an Orichalcum repeater and sword, but I'm a bit uneasy using them since they are perfectly identical to their Palladium and Titanium counterparts, just with slightly differing speed and damage. However, we are quickly going to be replacing the sword with the Titanium Trident. Ooh, that just sounds powerful, doesn't it? While mining for titanium, I run into the Skeleton Merchant, who sells the Format C yo-yo. I'm not the biggest fan of yo-yos, and they are pretty mediocre without the yo-yo bag, which we're not allowed to use. However, I don't think I've ever used this specific variant before, so I might as well buy it. And that would be all for Rattles Magoo here, but he actually can sell us another usable weapon if we activate a certain event, the Slap Hand. I'm pretty sure I've never even had this weapon in my inventory before. I mean, how many people are running into the Skeleton Merchant during a blood moon? It does around the same amount of damage as the Orichalcum sword, but the knockback that this thing has is actually really nice, and the sound effect it makes when hitting an enemy is just an added bonus. Just after, I run into the Wizard, who will sell us the Spell Tome. I've used the Golden Shower countless times because the Ichor debuff is very useful, but I've never used its corruption equivalent, the Cursed Flames. It's pretty much just the sequel to the Flower of Fire, but its fireballs give enemies the Cursed Flames debuff and last for a lot longer. Yeah, I'm not quite ready for that, sorry game. So, besides the Cursed Flames, what other weapons can we get before we start considering the first mechanical boss? Well, first, a combination of a Light and Dark Shard can create the Tao of Pow, a flail I've never used before. It does over 100 damage, which is pretty insane for early hard mode. The reason I've never used it before is probably because of how annoying these materials are to get. Light and Dark Shards only drop from Light and Dark Mummies, and don't do so very often, and the only way to find a Light or Dark Mummy is to be in their respective hollowed or corrupt deserts, something that's not even guaranteed to be in the world naturally. Well, luckily, we already got our Dark Shard from earlier, but there's actually no hallowed deserts in this world. To fix this, I decided to place a couple of Pearl Sand blocks in the sand arena, so that it'll begin to convert to a hollowed desert over time. Some other weapons I want to try and get are the Toxicarp, a ranged weapon found by fishing, either the Ice Bow or Flower of Frost from Ice Mimics, and possibly the Coin Gun from the Pirate Invasion. We end up catching the Toxicarp pretty quickly, and it's actually a really good weapon, despite me not even having heard of this thing before this playthrough. It's a ranged weapon that strangely does not consume any type of ammo, that rapidly shoots large toxic bubbles that curve upwards. It does around 50 damage and also inflicts poison. I spent some time scouring the ice biome in search of ice mimics, but I didn't end up finding any. However, while I was in the area, a blizzard started and spawned a single ice golem. I decided to just turn the frost core into a frozen chestplate since it'll give me an extra 7 defense over the orichalcum chestplate. I'm not going to use the full frozen set, but I can't turn down the extra defense. The ice golem also dropped the feather, but in my opinion, jump height and double jumps provide better movement over early hard mode wings, so we'll save our souls of flight until later. I'll admit, I severely underestimated the pirates. What started as an innocent attempt to get the coin gun turned into an absolute slaughter, even with me abusing Jester's arrows. The pirates just do so much damage, even with my defense. Needless to say, the coin gun didn't drop this time around. To be fair, it has a 1 in 8,000 chance to drop, so we might not ever see it. I pick up the magic quiver, which, once molten, I deemed acceptable to use. It'll further buff our orichalcum repeater, which I'm still keeping on standby for emergencies. Okay, game, I get it, but just hold on, I'm still not ready. Since we can get life force potions now, I take a trip to the underground hallow to fish for prismite. While fishing, I unexpectedly catch the crystal serpent, which is a weapon I forgot all about. It's a cool catch, but I don't really end up using it too much. So now that we have a decent selection of weapons under our belt, let's start thinking about mechanical bosses. I'm eager to just take one down as quickly as I can, since it'll move us into the next stage of the game. Life fruits start spawning, items like the Uzi and Yalit start dropping, the steampunker moves in, but most importantly, the Old One's army advances to tier 2 and introduces a bunch of new items. So, with the weapons we've accumulated so far, which mechanical boss should we go for? The game seems to want us to fight the Destroyer, but I don't think that's a very good idea. The Destroyer has a lot of health, and as a worm boss, his main weakness is piercing. None of the weapons we have right now do much piercing, so I doubt we'll even be able to kill the Destroyer before the sun comes up, even if we survive the onslaught of probes. Skeletron Prime is a finicky one. His arms spend a lot of time protecting his actual health bar, which means that his fight also favors piercing quite a bit, and his spinning head move will outrun us while we're still wearing the sand boots. He's definitely easier at this point than the Destroyer, but then we have the twins. I've always considered the twins to be the easiest of the mechs. They have the most predictable moveset, do not require piercing in any way, and generally don't have much health or damaging capabilities. Their souls also actually give an item that we can use in the form of the magical harp. And if you're wondering why I'm creating a mushroom house right now, the Truffle NPC sells the mushroom spear once you kill a mechanical boss, which I want to try out. Alright, let's do this. Ah, man. In hindsight, it probably wasn't a very good idea to commence this fight up in my sky arena, especially while utilizing the slime mount to give me more height. The low gravity easily trapped me to the roof of the world, not something I really accounted for. But otherwise, the fight was perfectly manageable. We just need a better arena. The Old One's Army is something that I never do in Terraria. Actually, it seems like a lot of people don't do the Old One's Army too much. Why is that?
But besides these guys, I mean, Old One's Army, man, jeez.
Maybe because tower defense doesn't really work well with Terraria, I don't know. Well, regardless, now that we've defeated a mechanical boss, the event progresses to Tier 2. Ogres replace Dark Mages as the Wave 7 boss, dropping a variety of juicy weapons that I've never used before. The Tavern Keep NPC also sells more powerful sentries and 4 new sets of armor, all of which I've never even equipped a piece of. And I guess now's the time to take a look at what armor sets we'll be allowed to wear for the rest of the playthrough. Currently, we're wearing Orichalcum armor, which is good enough against the mechanical bosses. The full set with the melee helmet gives an accumulative 42 defense. Not bad. For reference, Ancient Shadow armor only gave 19. However, that's only while wearing the melee helmet. If we want to boost our magical range damage, we'll have to put on the other helmets, which only give 4 and 7 defense each. So what's the next armor set that's going to replace Orichalcum? Well, in a normal playthrough, it would be Titanium, Frost, Hallowed, Chlorphyte, or even Turtle, but we aren't allowed to use any of these in this playthrough. And even if we struggle through Plantera wearing Orichalcum armor, it doesn't get much better. Spooky and Tiki armor have terrible defense, Spectre and Shroomite I'm not even allowed to use. Even looking past Golem, we obviously aren't allowed to use the overpowered Beetle armor. So, we're going to be stuck with Orichalcum armor for most of the playthrough? Well, I guess let's take a look at the Tavern Keep's armors, and holy crap, 27 defense on this chestplate. These armors are good. Well, I mean, they're good if Orichalcum is your only other option, but this is great. Well, this, combined with the fact that I can use all of the Ogre's weapons, means that the game is practically begging me to do the Old One's army. The only problem is, I have no idea how to actually do this event. I kind of went into this thinking that all it would take was a little bit of piercing, but I couldn't have been more mistaken. The first wave or two is fine when it's just the goblins, but when the birds start spawning is when everything goes downhill. And not only are they tricky to hit and do a lot of damage to the crystal, but they also do a lot of damage to me, even with how much I'm doing to give myself as much defense as possible. As a last-ditch effort, I decided to try using the Orichalcum repeater combined with the Molten Quiver, Jester's Arrows, and Archery Potions, which I thought would be overkill, but I still only made it a little over halfway through Wave 3, which is not even far enough to earn a single Defender medal. I needed a better way to deal with the birds, so I sat through an entire pirate invasion, vainly hoping for the coin gun. Of course, it didn't drop, but a Flying Dutchman did drop the Black Spot, which is a Master Mode only infinite flight mount, so that's good at least. Something else that I thought might help was to set up cannons sold by the pirate NPC. Cannonballs do 300 damage, so I thought it might have some merit, but it really didn't work out as well as I had hoped. And using the Orichalcum repeater as my main weapon for piercing can only last for so long, since Jester's Arrows are pretty expensive and I only have about 500 to spare. After that, I'll have to start grinding for Fallen Stars, which is not fun at all. To fix this, I decided to craft the Magical Harp out of Souls of Sight, a piercing weapon that isn't quite as good as the repeater, but doesn't use up any ammo whatsoever. Eventually, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to defeat the Old One's army with just piercing alone. I was going to need to play the tower defense game how it's supposed to be played, and use sentries. In the Old One's army, enemies drop Ethereal Mana, a special type of magic that can be converted into a sentry placement. Throughout the event, you can pick up enough mana to place around 16 sentries. A sentry staff that I haven't used before is the Queen Spider Staff, so I took a trip to a spider biome to get it. It's not half bad. It shoots spider eggs that explode into little spiders, inflicting venom onto any enemy they touch. However, to my disappointment, I found that you can only use Ethereal Mana for sentries sold by the Tavern Keep. Well, okay, but the problem is that I don't have the Defender medals to buy any of the Tier 2 staves. The Tavern Keep gives you 10 free Defender medals the first time you talk to him, but like an idiot, I already spent them on 2 of the Tier 1 staves, even though I didn't even really attempt the Old One's army in pre-hard mode. So what the hell do I do now? I don't really fancy fighting Skeletron Prime or the Destroyer with any of these weapons, they just aren't good enough. At this point, I was just scouring the wiki for any weapons that I haven't used before that might help with either the Old One's army or the next mechanical bosses. The 3 that I eventually settled on were the Bloodthorn, the Spirit Flame, and the Coin Gun. None of these weapons are easy to get. The Bloodthorn is dropped by Hemoglobin Sharks, a mini-boss that's spawned by fishing during the Blood Moon. The Spirit Flame has a difficult crafting recipe, a Desert Lamp, Souls of Night, and Forbidden Fragments. Souls of Night are easy enough, and I even managed to pick up the lamp after sitting in the underground desert for a bit, but Forbidden Fragments can only be gotten from sand elementals, an enemy that only spawns during sandstorms. And how do you get a sandstorm to start? Well, you basically just gotta wait. We've already been trying to get the coin gun for a bit, but as we established earlier, its abysmal drop chance is sickening. I tried doing the Blood Moon fishing, but whenever I summon any of these enemies, the Hemoglobin Shark, the Blood Eel, or the Dread Nautilus, them, with their horde of Blood Moon companions, just absolutely destroyed me. I cannot believe how much damage some of these Master Mode enemies do, even with 80 defense. It's insane. A random crate from fishing gave me the Anchor, a melee weapon that has some pretty good range and decent damage as well. But it's not quite good enough to be important. I'll be honest guys, at this point I was kind of at a loss of what to do. The Old One's army and the Blood Moon were both kicking my butt. I didn't want to grind for another Pirates map just to have the coin gun not drop, and as far as I could tell, a sandstorm was not coming. I knew that I was capable of killing the Blood Moon mini-bosses, I just needed to fight them in a controlled environment so that all the other enemies wouldn't be there to interrupt the flow of the fight. In other words, I needed to build an arena where enemies couldn't spawn at all, so that I could fight the Hemoglobin Shark in peace. A great way to do this is with lava, since there are no enemies in the game that can spawn in or on lava. Lava fishing granted some pretty good items for this. Wet bombs, which can be converted to lava bombs, an endless lava bucket, and a lava absorbent sponge. Some other items I got was a mount I've never even heard of before called the Superheated Blood, and the Obsidian Swordfish, a spear that's just a little bit worse than the Mushroom Spear. The Superheated Blood puts you on a lava shark, which can swim through lava extremely fast while making you immune. This got me thinking, if I'm already going to build an arena that has lava everywhere, why don't I just take full advantage of this mount speed and make the arena a giant lava pit? And that's exactly what I did. The Bloodthorn is a pretty good weapon, though it doesn't solve the bird issue with the Old One's army, since the spikes have to erupt out of some kind of block. However, it is pretty useful to take down the tankier enemies of the event though. With its help, we actually managed to beat Wave 4 of the Old One's army. Of course, I didn't completely clear the event since you have to get up to Wave 7, but beating Wave 4 will actually give us some Defender medals, and we can start saving up for the armor. Wait, one? You only get one Defender medal? But I need 45 of these. Ugh, brother. Well, time to go back to the drawing board. Despite my doubt that it would do much to help, I grabbed my Ballista and Flameburst rods, the tier 1 sentry staves I bought in pre-hard mode. They don't do much damage, but since they consume Ethereal mana to spawn, they're pretty much just a free DPS increase, plus we can summon our Spider Queen along with them. And I should probably just mention this right now, but I know that there's ways to cheese the Old One's army and make it a hell of a lot easier. However, the reason I'm not doing that is because that's not very interesting. For my first time actually challenging the Old One's army, I want to do it completely legit. Along with the rods, I craft the Super Star Shooter, a weapon that's extremely powerful but very expensive to use. I haven't used this variation of it, but I have used the original Star Cannon, so I've experienced how annoying it is to use. The Super Star Shooter is no doubt the best piercing weapon I can get right now, even if I could get whatever I want. The problem is, as its name suggests, it uses falling stars as ammo. At this point, I've managed to collect 167 falling stars, but this thing will eat them up within a minute of constant fire. So now we have 3 forms of piercing. The weakest is the Magical Harp, which takes no ammo. The second is the Orichalcum Repeater, which now only has 445 Jester's Arrows left. Jester's Arrows, if you didn't know, are also crafted with falling stars. The third is the Super Star Shooter, by far the most powerful, but also the most limited on ammo. The Magical Harp is simply not powerful enough to clear the entire event. We're gonna need one of these two, but if I run out of stars and arrows, I don't see myself farming for stars. But even with the Super Star Shooter, I only get about halfway through Wave 5. God damn, dude. I turned my sextant into a weather radio using the shimmer so that I can keep an eye on the wind speeds. If it exceeds 30 miles per hour, there's a chance that a sandstorm will strike, and I don't want to miss it. Another thing that you can make out of Forbidden Fragments is Forbidden Armor. It doesn't give much defense, but its set bonus is really good, and it gives a mix of summon and magic damage, which will buff both our sentries and our Magical Harp. After many attempts of the Old One's army, I finally had the sense to change up the placement of my sentries. Sentries target the closest enemy to them, so by placing them amidst the goblins and drakons, they weren't going for the birds at all. However, by placing them up high, they'll aim only for the birds when they spawn, finally solving the problem that I've been having this entire time. Sure, the ballistas don't do much damage, but if 5 of them are pointed at a single bird, they're likely to take it down before it can progress. And this was basically the key for the entire event. Now that I had that issue mostly out of the way, and I was ready to go with my Super Star Shooter and Orichalcum Bow, I suddenly made it to Wave 7, and before I knew it, an ogre was advancing on the crystal. You may have also noticed, but during that Old One's army attempt, a sandstorm finally hit. Unfortunately, because of its untimely appearance, it was almost done by the time I actually was able to start looking for elementals, and we only got to kill 1 before it ended. I would have preferred to at least been able to craft a Spirit Flame, which takes 2 fragments, but whatever. Ooh, 131 damage. Who needs Excalibur? We didn't defend the crystal since you need to kill 2 ogres, but beating wave 6 gave exactly enough defender medals for one of the tier 2 staves. I'm not really sure which one is the best, having never used any of them, or if a certain combination of them is good, so for now I'm just gonna assume that the highest damaging one is the best. Maybe when we have a go at Old One's army tier 3, we'll try and mix it up. Now that we have the Ballista Cane, the event just gets easier and easier from here. Using up the last of my fallen stars, I actually managed to take down both of the ogres, successfully defending the crystal for the first time. This means that I can finally use the Ballista Cane in any other Tavern Keep stave outside of the Old One's army, so that's cool. Completing the entire event also left me with exactly enough medals to purchase the entire Squire armor set, which gives a staggering 58 defense. And another couple of ogre kills later, and I have the Ghostly Glaive, the Phantom Phoenix, and the Monk's Belt. As melee weapons, I'm not really that impressed by the Ghosted Glaive or the Sleepy Octopod. The Brand of Inferno is simply a better weapon. Then, another Sandstorm hits, and I'm able to collect every Forbidden Fragment that I need. At this stage of the game, I was expecting the Spirit Flame to not be very good, but I was actually shocked by how powerful it is. It's also the first homing weapon we've gotten in the entire playthrough. I wish I had gotten this earlier. The Forbidden Armor set bonus is also very useful for the Old One's army. It allows you to place a Sand Tornado where your cursor is, lasting for a few moments and damaging any enemy that walks into it. Eventually, the ogre drops its last weapon, the Tome of Infinite Wisdom, which is an incredible piercing weapon. When I first started this playthrough, 2 of the weapons that I was looking forward to using were the Chlorophyte Saber and the Chlorophyte Partisan, but they honestly don't impress me at all. They both have extremely low damage, to the point where the Mushroom Spear beats the Partisan, and I'd rather just use the Brand of Inferno's damage over the Saber's Spore Clouds. And with that settled, there's pretty much nothing left to get before Plantera, so let's find the bulb and let's do it.